Well, good afternoon, boys. I think only boys. We have Sriram and Achut here. Sriram, do not comment. Do not comment. Just keep it one comment. You're flooding the comment box with all your comment. Please keep it to a single point, right? Now, good morning to all of you. Good afternoon to all of you. We're going to start the chapter yesterday. In the previous class, I had told you about a folk tribal legend, Birsa Munda, and we are going to continue with that one. And we're going to begin the chapter Tribals, Dikus, and the Vision of a Golden Age. Right. Now, as much as possible, please do not type anything in the comment box. Please do not type. All right. Now let's begin with the chapter. The chapter is obviously tribal Dikus and the vision of golden age. It begins with in 1895 where a person named Birsa Munda was seen roaming the forest and the villages of Chotanagpur in Jharkhand. He says he has miraculous powers. He can cure all diseases and he can multiply the grain. He declared himself as the god Bhagwan. So to free the people, to free his tribal people from the Dikus are the outsiders. He declared himself as the Bhagwan. So thus he got the name Birsa Bhagwan. Birsa was born in a family of Munda, a tribal group that lived in Chota Nagpur. His followers included the other tribal people like the Santals and the Oravans or the Kuruk people, bhi bolte hain unko. All of them, in different ways, were unhappy with the changes they were experiencing, with the problems they were facing under the British rule, and their familiar ways of life seemed to be disappearing. Their livelihood under threat, their religion appeared to be in danger because of the British influence there. What problems did Birsa set out to resolve? Who were these outsiders? And how did they enslave these people of a region? Those questions we're going to be answering in this chapter. We have read about tribal societies last year. More tribal societies also customs. They will have their own customs and rituals. They are different from what are laid down by the Brahmanas or the Vedas. These societies also did not have a sharp class or social divisions as we speak, but they did have something called sharing common ties of kinship and some other social and economic differences within the tribes. How did they live is what the focus of today's class. I hope the introduction was very brief and you got that introduction. And let's begin with the first one. Some of them were Joom cultivators. What is Joom? Joom or Jooming? I just put it here. Now, they were cultivating using something called a slash and burn. What is slash and burn? They will look out for a place, land. They will go and cut the trees so that the sunlight can fall on the ground. Then clear the patch of land, burn the patch of land, and use that ash from the fire because it contains potash as fertilizer. Grow in that patch of land, and when all the fertility of the soil is sucked, and they will take that one and move on to a next piece of land, next patch of land. So this will be like a fallow land, which it will not be cultivated for many years. Now, what happened when a fallow land is not cultivated for many years? It happens that when it is not cultivated for many years, it regains its fertility back. So they are waiting for it to regain its fertility back. They will use a single patch of land. They will use the slash and burn agriculture. It's called Juming in the northeast and the central in India. Then they will move on to another patch of land. There they go and they start Juming. So they moved on from one place to one place. They did not settle down in one place. That's called Juming, right? Some of them practice Jum cultivation, that is also called as shifting cultivation because they are shifting from one place to one place. Done on small patches of land, mostly in forest. The cultivators cut the tree tops to allow sunlight to reach the ground. They burnt the vegetation on the land to clear it for cultivation. Spread the ash from the fire which contained potash to fertilize the soil. They used the axe to cut the trees, hoe to scratch the soil in order to prepare it for cultivation. They broadcasted the seeds. They did not use what we call as plowing the land. They did not do it. Oh, let's see. They did not plow the land, but they did it. Okay, it was there in geography, but yeah, they did it by broadcasting the seeds, that is scattering the seeds all over instead of plowing the land. Once the crop was ready and harvested, they moved on to another field. A field that had been cultivated once was left fallow for several years, right? Shifting cultivators can be found in hilly and forested tracts of northeast and central India. The lives of these tribal people dependent on the free movement within the forest and being able to use the forest. If they are stopped or denied from using the forest, obviously their right or their claim on the forest will be rejected. It's traditional, should not be rejected. Now, the second kind of tribal people, some were hunters and gatherers. You have studied about these people in sixth, right? In many regions, tribal groups lived by hunting animals and gathered forest produce. If you remember very carefully, I was the one who taught you this chapter in sixth standard. Don't you remember? This was the chapter, hunters, gatherers, in sixth standard, where you are there. Go back 2 years, you'll remember. They saw the forest as an essential thing for survival. The Konds are one community, one tribal community which live in the forest of Orissa. They regularly went down to collect hunting, and then they divided the meat. Whatever they hunt in groups, they come and collect and distribute among the groups. It's like sharing, right? They eat fruits and roots collected from the forest, cook the food with the oil they extracted from the seeds of sal and mahua. They used oil. I told you the Mundas used oil from the forest. They used many forest shrubs and herbs for medicinal purposes, and they sold the forest produce in the local markets for some other things that they wanted. The local weavers and the leather workers turned to the cones when they wanted supplies of kusum and palash flowers to color their cloths and leather. So whenever they needed, the local people needed this color dyes, they would turn to the cones. So the cones would go to the forest and bring the kusum and the palash. In turn, they would get something. From where did these forest people get their supplies of rice? How did they get rice? They get it from the local, where they exchange the goods. Whatever they collected from the forest, they would give to the local people. From the local people, they would get the rice to eat. That's how they exchanged. Remember the barter trade? Yeah, yes, I see. It was there in geography last year. This year it is there in history. But it's not about the Aboriginal people. It is about the tribal versus the Dikus. That's why it's there in history, because of the British and Indian fight, right? At other times, they bought the goods with the small amount of earnings that they had. Some of them did odd jobs also, not necessarily cultivation, in the villages carrying loads or building roads, while others labored in the fields of other big peasants and farmers. When supplies of forest produce shrank, they will increasingly wander around in search of work, doing some work and all, doing some odd work as laborers, carrying loads and all. They like odd jobs. But many of them, like the Baigas of central India, were reluctant to do work for others. The Baigas saw themselves as couple of people of the forest. I read it out as couple of forest. People of the forest who could only live on the produce of the forest. Now, how many people did I count? One is the Mundas, the Santals, the Orans, and the Gonds and the Baigas. Now, the Baigas, absolutely, the Baigas were not ready to work as laborers. Tribal groups often needed to buy and sell in order to able to get the goods that were not produced within their locality. This led to their dependent on traders and money lenders. They had to get money from somebody else because not all the things were grown in that area. Traders came around with things for sale, sold the goods at high prices. Moneylenders gave loans with which the tribals met their cash needs, adding to what they have earned. But the interest charged on the loans were usually high. So for the tribals, the loans were not easy to take and not easy to pay. Now, when they took the loans, they obviously fell into the debt trap and became poor, faced poverty. Therefore, the moneylenders and the traders came to be seen as evil outsiders and cause of their misery. Now, what would they do? They would give you money, they would give the tribal people the money, but the tribal people would not repay back that money to them. So, the first Dikus, that means the outsiders that we're talking about here, is the financial people who helped them, moneylenders who gave them loan at high rate of interest. Fine. Yes, I see. Actually, Plassey got its name from the Palastri. True. Now, in a stretch, Taka Taka explained. I'll go to the next one. That's about the another type of work that they reared animals, herded animals. Many tribal groups lived in by herding and rearing animals. They were pastoralists who moved with the herd of cattle, sheep according to the season. Now, there are so many people. We are going to study them in detail. The chapter is there in ninth standard. Gujjar Bakarwals, you might have heard about the Banjaara tribe, they are all pastoralists. What they do is they have cattle. They will take their cattle to some other place for pasture, for water, and as soon as the season ends, they migrate back. So they migrate back and forth to help their cattle. That's what a pastoralist means, right? Now, when the grass in one place exhausted, they moved to another area. The one Gujjars of the Punjab hills and the Labdis of Andhra Pradesh were cattle herders. The Gaddis of Kulu were shepherds. The Bakarwals of Kashmir reared goats. You will read about them in your history book next year. I told you you're going to read about them in the next year. Now, what would they do? They reared herd, they would maintain a flock of sheep or goat or cattle. They would take the cattle, they would use. Now, normally, if you see, if you go to Jammu and Kashmir or Himachal Pradesh or Uttarakhand, you will see the people relying heavily on animals. Like the wool of the sheep is used to make the finest of the shawl. What is the name of the shawl? Do you remember the name of the shawl in Kashmir? What is the name of the shawl that's made? Anybody? Now you can comment. Yes, Sriram, now you can go. The Pashmina shawl, Badiya Dhanush. The Pashmina shawl is the answer. It's a very costly one, right? The Pashmina shawl. It is done with the pastoralist people, these nomad people who went from one place to one place. Now, later, now they have settled down in one place because of a lot of reasons. The reasons being climatic changes, poverty, influence of British. But previously, they used to go from one place to one place. Now, some took to settled cultivation. Some of them set their place in one place. They used to settle down in one place and started cultivating. Even before the 19th century, many from within the tribal groups started settling down and cultivated their fields from one place year after year instead of moving from one place to one place, not the shifting cultivation. They began to use the plow instead of broadcasting the seeds and gradually got rights over the land they lived on. Mundas of Chota Nagpur, the land belonged to the clan as a whole. I told you yesterday the Chota Nagpur Act, which was brought out after the death of Birsa Munda, promised that the land belonged to the Mundas cannot be sold to anybody. So they had their traditional rights over the land. All the members of the clan were regarded as the descendants of the original settlers who had first cleared the land. The land belonged to them. Therefore, all of the land had rights. All of them had rights on the land. Very often, some people within the clan acquired more power than the others. Some became chiefs, others followers, powerful men rented out their land instead of cultivating themselves. They gave it to the peasants for the rent. British officials saw the settled tribal groups like the Gonds, like the Santals, as more civilized than the hunter-gatherers or the shifting cultivators who moved from one place to one place. Those who lived in the forest are considered to be wild and savage. They needed to be settled and civilized. You know that, right? Because they are not into mainstream society, so they will be not as civilized as the settled man is. Now, this is where we are going to stop it, guys. It's 12:35 now. The next part will deal you about the colonial government, the British government. How did it try to change the lives of these tribal people? Was it good for the tribal people? or was it bad for the tribal people? That's what they're going to study in the next part. We're going to study that one. What is it, Daisri? So that anyone would go so fast, it would not the other. Okay, I got it. It was fast, yeah. You know why it was fast? Look at the people that they are there. It's just 16. It's 16 people. Now the class strength is like, let's say 42 plus 42. That should be 84. Where are the rest 70 people? No 70 people. So I just went so fast so that I can have more content in 15 minutes. Remember, you can actually watch this again. It will be there in the YouTube, so you can watch it and get that one again. So now it's 37. If you have anything, you can just put it in the comment box. Otherwise, it's always like goodbye. Is there anything? Achut, Sriram, ICV, Danush? Okay then. Yeah, I was fast. Watch it again if you do not get it. I just went according to the textbook. I did not say anything else. So let's try to watch it again. And it's goodbye from me. Tomorrow is Friday. So again, there is no live tomorrow. It's a recorded video. You'll get a recorded video. I'll try whether I can come live or not. The Saturday we do have class. So we can see you on Saturday. So it's goodbye from me. Have lunch, guys, and take care.